Hi, hello, and welcome everyone to this interesting topic, importance of socio-economic in development project. My journey into this topic began with the witness of distressing circumstances faced by migrant workers in India during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. The experience profoundly shaped my understanding of development, especially in the socio-economic realms. That it made me realize that true development cannot be measured solely by the GDP or infrastructure development. We need to focus on the project that improves the lives of people, create opportunities, and addresses the social inequality. In our discussion today, we will explore the concept of development not just as a term but as a multifaceted process. Development is often defined in various ways, and I will delve into some of these definitions in the upcoming slides. However, from my perspective, development transcends mere growth, encompasses both growth and transformative changes. The effectiveness of planning and execution strategy can significantly influence whether this change is positive or negative. Hence, contemporary times we perceive development not merely as the construction of physical structure to showcase progresses. Instead, it's about creating a meaningful advancement that positively impact the socio-economic landscape. Considering a range of factors and a parameter. As we proceed with my presentation, I want to clarify that my approach will not focus on the theoretical model, ideology, or political perspective related to development. Instead, I aim to present a straightforward and focused view on the topic, the critical role of socio-economic factors in the growth-oriented development projects. We will discuss definitions, scope, associated issues, challenges, and necessary reforms at both planning and policy level. Let's embark on this journey to understand and appreciate the complexity and nuances of socio-economic development. Following India's independence, the government faced the monumental task of fostering socio-economic development in rural areas. To address these challenges, Government of India initiated various measures through institutions such as Planning Commission, Finance Commission, and Panchayat Raj Institutions. Both central and the state government launched numerous schemes underpinned by development projects aimed at stimulating socio-economic progress. There are different schools of thought that define development aspects in their way. Some relate to subjective and owing to the nature of the development process like economic development, social development, human development, environmental development, technological development, etc. There is no specific definition of development, but it is largely narrative from the subjective perspective, having a multitude of meaning attached to the idea of development. The term is complex, contested, ambiguous, and elusive. Perspective on development range from conservation of natural resources into cultural capital to improvement in the people's quality of life and socio-economic transformation. Some emphasize its dynamic nature, constantly evolving as a goal and context shift. Well, this slide shows some international perspective on development by some of the eminent experts. Looking at their viewpoint, development can be defined in many ways. It is largely related to socio-economic parameters. The highest level of ability, standard of living, gender perspective, and international opinion all lead to bring socio-economic changes that allow people to achieve their human potential. One can also say that the concept of development is intertwined with the enhancement of people's ability and living standard, with a particular focus on gender perspective and international viewpoint. However, a common thread in these diverse approach is the pursuit of socio-economic changes that empowers individuals to realize their full human potential deeply rooted in socio-economic factors. In contemporary discourse, development is often perceived as an event or occurrence, be it an ongoing project or an eminent one that significantly impact current and future socio-economic activity or aspect. It encompasses the implementation of specific economic and technical strategies to effectively utilize available resources, aiming to spur economic growth and enhance the quality of life for people. A closer examination reveals that development strategy places a substantial emphasis on socio-economic parameters. This includes the formulation of specific policies and strategy designed to allocate resources judicially and facilitate socio and economic mobility across different strata of population. Thus today, development places more emphasis on socio-economic parameters such as specific policies and strategies to channel resources and enable economic mobility for various layers of population. The literature review reveals various approaches to development, which I have classified into three primary categories, particularly in context to infrastructure development projects aimed at the socio-economic advancement. Firstly, there the welfare approach, which focuses on the well-being of the resident, those affected by the project, or incoming migrant population. This approach includes essential services such as housing, education, health, public utilities, etc. The provision of these services can be undertaken directly by the state through collaborative efforts with the professional agency in public-private partnership model, or even at the grassroots level, NGO can work on this aspect. The key here is the enhancement of the living condition and access to the basic amenities regardless of the services provider. Secondly, we encounter right-based services which are enshrined in Constitution of India. This includes human rights and fundamental rights. This approach often comes into play when the welfare model falls short in delivering the desired services, or when the socio-economic benefits of projects are not equitably distributed. In such scenario, governance play a crucial role in ensuring that these constitutional provisions are upheld and effectively implemented. The third category emerges when it is established that the benefits of projects are being equitably shared and the necessary services are being provided to the affected population that comes under sustainable approach. This leads to the evaluation of measurable performance outcome of the socio-economic interventions. Such assessments are crucial to determine the impact of these interventions on key indicators like poverty eradication, growth in gross domestic product or per capita income, and the equitable distribution of benefits among the resident population. This stage involves scrutinizing the effectiveness of the state authority, project's proponent, or any appointed agency in achieving these socio-economic goals. My experience of working on projects related to dams, bridge, roads, water harvesting, soil conservation, etc. has shown that there is no substitute for dialogue with the farmers, villagers and resident population. It is important to maintain continued close relationship throughout the project tenure and learn from the people of the target area. Development project often requires demonstration before people can understand and envisage their effectiveness. Therefore, project authorities need to keep in mind the importance of people priorities and participation. The project approach should be tailored to the nature of the project. High caliber techniques provided a sophisticated way of doing projects like dam, canals or bridges, while simple projects like water harvesting or soil conservation require simple techniques that are easily adaptable. The former requires a specialized training and highly qualified workforce. Resource mobilization is an important aspect of project development. Depending on the nature of the project, the use of sophisticated or simple machinery generated demand for training. The classification of the project work will decide the type of raw material to be used, the manufacturing process, and the technique used. These are linked to the employment, which determine the type of workforce to be involved or hired, local labor, contract, or in migration of the workforce. Fixed work plans are meant to operationalize project activities within a time frame. For big projects like construction of dam, tunnel, mining, etc., a certain amount of delay is inevitable. However, in small projects like water harvesting, conservation projects, fixed work plan or a rigid target should not be set in the early stage of implementation. It is unrealistic to plan for all contingency and arrogant to assume that the techniques and approach planned from the outset cannot be improved. Learning from the experience and the interaction with the people is much better approach. Thus, flexibility should be written in both types of projects documents. Subsidies and incentives for big projects such as dam, canal and mining could be given indirectly. For example, in mining, subsidies are given to the local people about the use of water, while for canal projects, free or concessionary supply of water to their agriculture field could be provided. For small projects like water harvesting and a toilet construction, subsidies are made through contribution from the beneficiary. Monitoring, evaluation and reporting are important aspects of project development. In the big project, there is sophisticated information and under project management professional PMP for the distribution of tasks and information management on Excel. However, in small projects like water harvesting, monitoring, evaluation and reporting are often weak spot. Too many projects fails to collect data at even the most basic level. For example, crop yields and tree heights are often just estimated. It is also very rare to find any information on the frequency or depth of water harvested. Without a basic monitoring system, projects are starving themselves of data for evaluation. Without clarity, written reports widely circulated, projects are denying to provide others with the important information. Thus, monitoring and evaluation is an important to both types of project. Further, the primary socio-economic parameters in any development project is invariably related to land. Land is a critical element as the project's establishment hinges on it, with its nature and the capacity varying based on the project's requirement. A significant aspect of this is land ownership, making land acquisition a pivotal factor in the socio-economic development of the families residing in the region. The process inevitably leads to rehabilitation and resettlement activity, which are among the most crucial tasks in any development project. Accompanying these activities are issues related to the compensation and solitium. If a project is to be implemented on leased or rented land, challenges arise concerning the ownership of the outputs or benefits generated by the project. In such cases, owner or the stakeholder may show reluctant to invest in the project due to uncertainty about the returns of the benefits. The second critical aspect of socio-economic development projects involves establishing services that caters to the basic needs of the resident population or the project affected population. This includes the development of housing, colonies, public utilities, medical, health services, transportation, education, followed by area development, ancillary units and the market force. Another vital aspect is understanding the area's unique characteristics or barriers. These encompasses the property of the geographical area, distinct socio-economic differences among the various social groups, demographic profiles, and the primary occupation of the resident population. It involves understanding people's priority through need assessment survey, ensuring their participation, and considering vital indicators, gender, and equity. These aspects are typically covered in Chapter 3 of the Environmental Impact Assessment Report, where I describe the socio-economic profile using the set of indicators. Lastly, an effective monitoring system includes a redressal mechanism is essential, though often missing in India. Having been the part of EIA team as field assessment expert in socio-economic for over 200 projects, I have observed that while this clause is mentioned in the terms of reference and during the public hearing, it is rarely seen in action during the construction, commissioning, and even the regular operation phase of most of the development projects. The establishment of the robust and responsive redressal mechanism remains a significant gap in the execution of these projects. In my presentation so far, I have outlined various parameters of development projects. However, to effectively implement these parameters, a robust socio-economic framework is essential. Based on my literature review and personal experience, I propose a classification of socio-economic framework into 4 main parameters applicable across a range of projects and entities, each within its own set of challenges and probability. Firstly, as previously mentioned, land is a critical aspect of any project. While I have already discussed its importance, I want to emphasize the complexity involved in land acquisition under the existing law, the process of awarding compensation or solitium according to the legal or market rate, and the need of establishment safeguard policy for the resident or the project affected population. Achieving and implementing these aspects is often a challenging task. The second parameter involves the labor workforce. This aspect is implemented in various capacities across different types of entities. In government projects, social licensing to work such as under Manrega is common. For smaller projects, local labor contractors are typically involved, while larger projects often necessitate the involvement of external labor contract. Within this, the employment is further categorized into skilled and unskilled labor workforce. The third part of framework is welfare-based approach, which I discussed earlier. This involves establishing services to meet the basic needs such as housing, medical care, electricity, sanitation, education, etc. From my experience, these approaches is partially implemented and as of now is mostly restricted to very large projects irrespective of the entity involved. The fourth part, which I often overlooked, is a labor right based approach or social protection or for labor forces. The glaring example of this oversight was evident in the aftermath of the first COVID-19 lockdown, which exposed the dire condition of laborers working across the various sectors all over the country. Lastly, the fifth part of the framework involves governance policy. Currently, this seems like a distant dream within the implementation largely limited to top tier companies like Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 companies. It's a sector that urgently requires the attention of policymakers. I remain hopeful that in future effective governance policy will be implemented across all types of projects and entities, but as of now it remains largely unaddressed area. In our discussion on socio-economic development, responsibilities for commercial entities, several key aspects stand out. Let's delve into these. Firstly, we have the right to fair compensation and transparency in the Land Acquisition, Resettlement and Rehabilitation Act of 2013. Under the R&R program, the Act comprises 13 chapters with 114 sections. As socio-economic professional, our focus is primarily on Chapter 2, which covers the determination of social impact and the public purpose, encompassing Section 429. Our role involves creating two types of database, one related to the households or families and other to the area villages, particularly concerning the properties that will be submerged or otherwise affected by the development project. This information is crucial for calculating compensation and solidum using public document as reference. The second aspect pertains to corporate social responsibility, as outlined in Section 135 and subsection 1 and 2 of Section 469 of the Companies Act 2013, Companies Policy Rule of 2014. Here there is a mandatory for company to allocate 2% of their average net profit for the last 3 years toward the CSR activities before it gain the profit. These activities listed under Schedule 7 are intended to align with the Millennium Development Goal and Sustainable Development Goal. Another important aspect in corporate environment responsibility, as per the Office Memorandum dated 1st May 2018. This project based and involves budget allocation according to the various predefined slabs for the capital investment in a green and brownfield project, and it varies as per the time to time. Special provisions are also made for specific population group, particularly focusing in the tribal population, other backward classes, scheduled caste and indigenous group. Additionally, there are special projects undertaken by the international NGOs and national corporate entities. Although only a small number of NGOs and corporations are actively engaged at the grassroots level development work, their contributions are also very significant. Before we proceed further, it is important to understand the difference between CSR and CER, as both are crucial for the socio-economic development. They serve different purposes and operate under different guidelines and objectives. CSR is a broader in scope encompassing a range of social initiatives, while CER more focused on environmental aspect of the corporate activities. The slide shows the difference between CSR and CER. It largely highlights the paradox of development environment duties versus social neglect. While environmental and social responsibility have dedicated framework like CER and CSR, socio-economic aspect often gets sidetracked in development. Corporate environment responsibility might seem robust project, specific clearance budget allocated, compliance report submitted, but is it enough? CER activities often temporary and packaged, lack long-term vision and moral commitment. They driven by project clearance, not genuine environmental stewardship. Corporate environment responsibility might seem robust. Project-specific clearance, budget allocated, compliance report submitted. But is it enough? CSR activities often temporary and packed, lack long-term vision and moral commitment. They are driven by the project clearance, not genuine environmental stewardship. Contrast this with the corporate social responsibility mandated by laws. CSR demand 2% of the profit be directed toward the social upliftment. It has teeth, penalty clause, and annual reporting hold companies accountable. Plus, CSR embraces direct and indirect intervention, suggesting a more systematic and responsible approach. So, with seemingly strong framework in the place, why is the social economic aspect of the development the neglected stepchild? Why the persistent prioritization and commercial gain over social well-being? This lopsided focus breeds disparity, widen gaps between haves and have-not. It has raised questions: are existing framework enough under development project, or do we need stronger enforcement mechanism for socio-economic consideration? Or how can we incentivize business to truly invest in the communities they impact beyond ticking compliance box? Or how can we shift the development paradigm from profit-driven to one that prioritizes the inclusive, sustainable progress? Exploring these questions and advocating for a more balanced approach is critical. We need to move beyond mere compliance and towards the genuine commitment to improving the lives of those affected by development projects. Only then we can truly bridge the gap between the environmental duties and the social responsibility, building the future where the economic progress benefits. Commercial entities often prioritize revenue generation over socio-economic development, giving little weightage to the latter. They tend to approach socio-economic development in casual manner. Corporate environment responsibility is often confused with the SLAP system. The state committee defines the SLAP system differently from the proponent who take it as written in OM, Office Memorandum. The activities defined under CER are questionable and acceptable to the state committee. Another aspect raised by the proponent is that when a company is already doing corporate social responsibility, what is the need of doing it under the head of CER? And what is the significance related to it? Above all, what is the time duration of spending the said budget? Another problem is lack of need assessment survey, which the proponent avoids doing and tries to manage according to their willingness. This results in more supply side management rather than understanding the local community demand. Documentation of social needs and missing links as observed in the EIA report is another important point. Chapter 3 is largely based on the baseline survey through the both primary and secondary data, and the conclusion drawn in this is related to the chapter 4, where its impacts and mitigation are well defined, which later could be planned under CSR activities in chapter 8. However, the quality aspect of the EIA report do not show these linkages, and each chapter is written treating on an island. Another important aspect is we give more weightage to the financial audit and keep aside the social audit. The financial audit report says that certain amount of money was spent doing the certain activity in the area. To address this issue of socio-economic development, it is important to ensure that activities are carried out in nearby villages where the green or brownfield project is coming. However, it is unclear that how it has been done, who the beneficiaries are, and whether they have received the real benefits of it. Another problem is lack of trained professionals who understand the meaning of development, how to assess, how to select samples, how to know the demand, and methodology to identify the demand. Moreover, there is no interlinkages between the ministries, especially within the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and other Ministry of Environment, Education, Water, etc. This result in streamlining of the socio-economic demand is totally missing out. Well, to enhance the socio-economic status with the development project, the following are the recommendations. First is structural integration of the community or region demands. Establish a cohesive network among the various ministries linking state headquarters with district authorities to ensure that the community and the regional demand are integrated into the decision-making process. The second is pooling of resources, utilizing existing funds more effectively, such as district development funds or district mineral funds, to address the local need comprehensively. Third is strengthening the bottom-up planning. Focus on the rural infrastructure development, including panchayati infrastructure, school infrastructure, electrification, public amenities, etc. aligning with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Enhancing rural services by promoting skill development and developing school science laboratory, providing livelihood training, encouraging ecotourism, and supporting handicraft and household-based industry. Fourth point is defining the socio-economic framework. In corporate environment, social and governance (ESG) goal into the framework. Address the land and other related physical parameters. Implement workforce welfare-based approach, focusing on the well-being and development of the labor force. Ensure workforce right-based approach, safeguarding labor rights and ensuring fair treatment. Develop and enforce governance policy parameters to guide and regulate the socio-economic development activities, and emphasize sustainable growth parameters, ensuring the development is environmentally sustainable and socially equitable. To fortify the social sector, particularly in context of green or brown project, it's crucial to integrate environmental and social performance indicator with the governance structure as largely the base of ESG framework of operation of any project. This integration is not a procedural necessary but a strategic approach to ensure sustainable development. Here an elaboration to the above all 17 indicators. Integration of performance indicators. Environmental and social performance indicators should be seamlessly integrated into governance model of project. This seems that projects planning, execution and evaluation should not only consider financial and operational metrics but also how the project impact the environment and society. Next, for instance, environmental indicators might include measures of pollution reduction, resource conservation, and biodiversity preservation, while social indicators could focus on community engagement, local employment, and social equity. The second is very important is the development of healthy ecological setting. The environmental parameters of project play a pivot role in shaping a healthy ecological environment. This involves minimizing the negative impact on natural resources and ecosystem and potentially contributing positively to the environment. A project that respects and enhances the ecological setting contributes to the long-term sustainability of both projects and the surrounding environment, creating a harmonious balance between the development and the nature. The third is supporting the social culture milieu. Projects should be designed and executed with the understanding of social and cultural context in which they operate. This means respecting local cultural tradition and social structure and ensuring that development activities do not disturb but rather enhance the socio-fabrics. This means respecting the local cultural traditions and social structures and ensuring that development activities do not disrupt but rather enhance the social fabric. Equity is a key consideration here. Projects should aim to distribute benefits fairly among all community members, avoiding action that might lead to social disparity of injustice. Next is the balancing commercial operation. While commercial success is often primary goal for any project, this should not be achieved at the expense of environmental integrity and social welfare. The governance of these projects should therefore include mechanism to balance commercial objective with environmental and social responsibility. This might involve investing in sustainable technology, engaging in corporate social responsibility initiative, or adopting business practices that are both economically viable and socially beneficial. Last but not the least is a holistic approach of governance. Effective governance in context requires a holistic approach that considers the interdependency between the environmental, social, and economic factors. Decision-making process should be transparent and inclusive, involving stakeholders from various sectors, including local communities, environmental experts, and social activists, to ensure that diversified perspectives are considered and integrated. Continuing from the previous slide, allocation of CER funds according to the standard guidelines. For Greenfield project, the Ministry of Environment advocates specific allocation of corporate environmental responsibility fund. These allocations should adhere to standard guidelines tailored to each sector or should be dependent upon the committee level members. The focus of these allocations should be on environment-related activities such as creation of recreational gardens, groundwater recharge initiatives, water harvesting projects, ecological development plan, construction of check dams, and the development of ponds and lakes. Additionally, installation of pollution reduction instrument in the factory premises is also very crucial. These activities align with the several sustainable development goals, including Sustainable Development Goal 6, clean water sanitation, Sustainable Development Goal 7, that is affordable and clean energy, Sustainable Development Goal 13, that is climatic action, and Sustainable Goal 14, life below the water. The allocation of CER funds should be strategically planned to contribute effectively toward these global goals, and moreover, it should be demand generated during the public hearing from the community. Advocacy for need assessment survey. It is essential to advocate for the need assessment survey conducted by the NABERT certified professional. These surveys are critically in understanding the specific socio-economic needs of the community affected by industrial projects. The insight gained from these surveys can guide the development of the community development program that are more aligned with the actual need and aspiration of the local population, ensuring these interventions are both relevant and effective. Last is enhance the follow-up and monitoring system. To ensure the effectiveness of the development program implemented by the industry, there is a need for more trained and accredited professionals who can conduct through social audit. These audits should include individual benchmarking, categorizing the professional as C, B, A, E or H category to assess the impact and effectiveness of each project. Individual social audits are crucial for providing a detailed and nuanced understanding of how development initiatives are impacting the social fabric of the communities. These audits help in identifying areas of success, those needing improvement, and ensuring accountability, continuous improvement in developing practice. In summary, strengthening the social sector in context of green and brown projects necessitate a comprehensive approach that integrates environmental and social consideration into the governance framework. This approach not only ensures the sustainability of the projects but also fosters the harmonious relation between the economic development, environmental health, and social well-being. Today's presentation largely highlights race against time between commercial and social activity. We give much impetus to the commercial activities, giving flexibility in export policy, granting subsidies, income tax rebate, etc. That in turn brings revenue to the country and affects the GDP of the country. While the surrounding socio-economic parameters are lagging, both the policy and the resource are not equally shared or distributed among the resident population or the project affected population, which directly affects the sustainable goal of the country. Just see the graph of the World Bank showing increasing order variation of GDP over the years, and the same is also true if we see the figures of SDG. Global rank of India is 110 position in 2016, which later slipped down to 117 ranks in the world. See the difference that the GDP shows progressive growth on the upward side while the vice versa situation is witnessed in SDG. But ideally, a country stated should be progressive, that is both the commercial and socio-economic development should parallelly progress in the given region, that is the regional dynamics for the development. This could be judged from GDP and SDGs, so the real fruits of any development project should come along with the socio-economic sector. However, this is a great challenge for the implementers and the policy makers. Lastly, I would say that the presentation aims to create a more integrated, resource-efficient and community-focused approach to socio-economic development, ensuring that the benefits of growth and progress are equitably distributed and aligned with the broader sustainability goals of all types of development projects. The research for this presentation spanned from 2011 to 2020 and was finalized in my studio on 15th April 2020 during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Later in the year, on 17 October 2020, I had the privilege of presenting this topic at first virtual conclave celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Quality Council of India. Now I am eager to hear your feedback, your reaction and any suggestion. Encouraged by the enthusiastic response and increasing interest in this field, I have created an interesting topic on issues and challenges of ESG in the development economy of India. This presentation is designed for new aspirants for making career in ESG and working professional of ESG in the various industries. So stay tuned for the upcoming interesting topic on my channel next week that will delve into ESG in Indian context only. Till then, best wishes and bye-bye until your next interaction.